seems to be everywhere these days, from art to music, gaming, food, and these digital assets are produced at an alarming speed and are selling actually already for millions of dollars. Question is, for many people, are NFTs worth the money or the hype? Some experts say there is a bubble, poison to pop, like the dot-com era we had. Others believe that NFTs are here to stay and that they will change investing forever. Although NFTs have been around already since 2014, they are gaining now because they are becoming an increasingly popular way to buy and sell digital work. The market for NFTs in 2021 was 41 billion US dollar alone, an amount that's approaching the total value of the entire global fine art market. So NFTs are generally one of a kind, at least one of a very limited one, and have unique identifying codes. This stands a little bit in contrast to most digital creations, which are almost infinite in supply. By hypothetically, we have to say, cutting off the supply should raise the value and given asset, assuming its demands. But these are all topics which we will discuss today, and our speakers, professionals in the area, of course, will give us much more insight in this regard. So I'm happy and take the opportunity to welcome first our keynote speaker, which is Joanna Rendell. Joanna actually, I will introduce her very briefly. She has a Master's of Law with the main focus on information society, data protection, tech and innovation, as well as commercial contracts and IPR resolutions. She's also enrolled in a master's degree at the University of Nicosia in blockchain and digital currency. And she worked in several tech companies as legal counsel over the years. Currently, she holds the position of senior legal counsel with specialization on blockchain and NFTs at OneFootball GmbH. And her main responsibility includes supporting the new established NFT team and to build the NFT marketplace for all football fans around the world. So hopefully today she will share with us her knowledge, her experience, and the challenges with this kind of new technologies. So we're really looking forward, Joanna. So I would like to hand you the floor.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Javier. Very, very nice to be here. And I'm very much looking forward to a very fruitful and hopefully very engaging discussion with everyone. Yes, I do work with NFTs and these legal challenges on a daily basis. I am also currently in New York for the NFT New York conference. And I can tell you that this is a whole week full of very interesting different projects, and people are definitely building a lot of things in the space. So yeah, so obviously I am now a little bit in this hype bubble in general, surrounded by thousands of NFT enthusiasts. So right, this week it looks very bright and very hopeful with a lot of builders, but of course, as also mentioned, we are currently in a crash, or we have just experienced the crash again. So whatever the future holds, we will see, I guess. But I believe I could start my presentation. Somebody should probably upload it or help me out here.
IT, can you please change the presentation?
All right. That looks more or less right. All right, I will dive directly into the presentation, starting with very basics, as I wasn't exactly sure how much understanding everybody has. So this is just why for the first couple of slides I'm going to just run over the very basics, and then go a little bit more deeper into what we do at OneFootball, or just in general, like the legal challenges that we are experiencing building sports NFTs, because I think that they give a pretty good overview in general also of different type of aspects to take into consideration when actually building in space, right? So yes, there are of course, so very basic, as Javier already said, a non-fungible token. It represents a unique asset on the blockchain that then, in comparison to fungible tokens, which would, for example, be cryptocurrencies, cannot, like, one doesn't equal another one. They are all unique. I think that's more or less the easiest way to put it. And then, as we can also see here on the picture, they have different types of attributes to it. For example, they are programmable, and they are non-custodial. Yes, and then what type of NFTs do we have? So we can have collectible items, artwork, event tickets, music, media, gaming, sports, virtual fashion, real world assets, memes, domain names. There is a lot of different types, as we can see, and also here on the graph we can see that what we had, like these different type of categories, what the type of categories that are also growing, or the type of NFTs is shifting. So, for example, now for 2021, we're seeing more collectibles than what we saw in 2022. Exactly. So then, if we dive into the current legal landscape, I made this slide full of text. Very sorry about that, but maybe trying to, with these flags, rather give an overview of what we're seeing in Europe. So, as said, the NFTs are unique assets, and also there are many types of them. So currently within the European Union or the EEA, non-fungible tokens are, because of this structure, they are left outside of regulation many times. So what we're seeing mostly regulated are more cryptocurrencies in the sense of security. So we're more regulating, for example, in Germany, we are more regulating, or the regulation rather concerns companies that offer any type of custody businesses. So, for example, exchanges and so on. Also, the MiCA regulation, so the markets in crypto assets that are currently underway, which I'm sure many have heard of. It also more focuses on such type of assets, so also leaving, for example, NFTs outside. Now, Liechtenstein, they have, which is very progressive, and which I find to be a very interesting use case. They currently have a token act in place, which not my intention to go too much into detail, but basically what they are doing is that they are forming a type of container model where real life assets are put into type of containers, and then these can be tokenized. So meaning that what they are trying to kind of achieve is to sort of categorize different types of assets, and then understanding sort of the digital or the technical aspect maybe of these can be said, to then rather, so with the aim of trying to clarify what type of asset you actually have. And this is, of course, very welcomed and something that I personally, at least, would like to see more, because the the more we clarify the landscape around what we actually have. So, I mean, because essentially, yes, an non-fungible like an NFT is not regulated right now because it's not considered, for example, a security, but it could also be that, depending a little bit on the shape of form it takes. And so if you would have, laws like the Liechtenstein Token Act, for example, that then would have clear parameters that says if your token is this, then it's an equivalent to that, then it really gives a more clarity around what you're actually operating with, which then leads to also easier, or that it's then easier to understand tax implications, or any other type of restrictions you might have, or obligations you might have, and so on. So yeah, but currently the NFTs specifically are still quite unregulated. But of course, we will see in the future again if this changes. So we at OneFootball, we're building an NFT marketplace, and for sports NFTs in particular. And when building these type of NFTs, what we are specifically facing are to understand the type of underlying rights, which then, to go back to the very first or the second slide about which different type of NFTs there might be. We might have a Bored Ape Yacht Club type of example where your ape, if you hold your ape, you hold all of the intellectual property rights to that. So that means you can commercialize on your NFT, which then is a completely, or you could argue maybe that at least a very different type of NFT or asset to hold than, for example, a collectible such as a sports NFT, whereby there are several right holders to the underlying rights that you have to collect. As, for example, we as OneFootball as a company, when we launch different NFTs, we go out to the clubs, to the leagues. We need to understand what rights a player holds, for example, make sure we don't infringe anyone's rights, and then we collect these, and then and hold licensing agreements with all of them, to then make sure that we are compliant, in the sense that we are not selling something that we didn't have the rights to build in the first place. So, and then I am not very familiar, for example, with music NFTs, but there you have another set of rights again, where you need rights from an artist, for example, to then build. Also, there comes in like very many aspects of licensing rights that you need to acquire, and so these are kind of, in very brief, different aspects to take into consideration when building these, well, when building different types of NFTs, but also, of course, if you are an NFT collector or a holder, depending on what you wish to do with your NFT, or if you're a company that issues NFTs, depending on what type of utility you want to give the holder of the NFT, that's also something to take into consideration, in terms of what you actually can do. Because obviously, for example, in our case, because we hold rights from different type of already existing right holders, that also limits the type of rights that we can give out. So it all becomes a little bit complex when building these things, and a lot of things to take into consideration. So that was the end of my presentation. And maybe just to summarize some key things that I think is very important to take into consideration when building in the space or putting together NFTs is definitely that when one starts an NFT project, to think about the strategy around it. So who do you want to sell to? What do you want to build? And then based on that, making sure that that you do acquire the correct rights, and also think about, you know, these different types of right holders, for example, designers to the NFT, or your own, if you are a right holder, whom might you want to sell your rights to, if you are the right holder potentially, or teaming up with or such. What are the implications for that? And yeah, also, of course, if you what you can then also see, for example, in sports, is then to understand also, um, if you do acquire rights, for example, have these rights been sold to other parties before? Like, what are your rights actually worth that you are acquiring? Because if you have a sports team that have very much chopped up all of their rights and sold small pieces to everybody, you might then want to start thinking about how much that right that you're acquiring is actually worth at the end to the end customer. Because we talk a lot about uniqueness when it comes to NFTs, and that uniqueness makes NFTs valuable. And obviously, the more similar ones are out there, you might also argue that might impact the end value, or the ultimate value of NFTs. Yeah, so hopefully that gave some food for thought, and I'm very happy to continue now the discussion with everyone. Thank you.
Thanks, Joanna, for this insightful presentation and for sharing your knowledge with us. So we will now go into the panel discussion. The panel discussion will also be completed by Mr. Farrokh Türk. But before I introduce him, I would like to remind all participants that they can ask questions in the comment section, and we will try to address all your questions actually to the panelists within the next 50 minutes. So I already saw a few already started, so please feel free to ask more and more questions, so that actually our experts can answer them. So as mentioned, Mr. Farrokh Türk is joining us for the panel discussion now. So thank you very much. Short introduction. I will keep it short, Farrokh, if you want to add something.
Yeah, I will add something.
So Farrokh holds a Master of Science in Business Information Systems from ZHAW, and the Master of Science in Finance from the University of Liechtenstein. He is molecular and a result-driven professional, offering with many years of experience in blockchain, DeFi, and cryptocurrencies. His excellence is analyzing the needs for launch strategies like ICOs, IDOs, IEOs, and specialized in communication with the community, focusing on vision and education. He advised and worked for several projects in tokenomics, branding and marketing strategy, game design, documents, white paper, and general growth strategies to ensure also sustainable business models for others. So his expertise focused mainly on tokenomics, smart contracts, token launch and promotion, BSC, ETC, community management, NFT use case definition, and community handling, and generally speaking, metaverse. So thanks, Farrokh, for joining us today, and also share your knowledge and experience. So yeah. Welcome.
Thank you, Javier, for the introduction. Just to let everyone know, I'm not an expert in any field. These are just the touch points that I had, because in this space, when you start wanting to understand the technology and the use cases, you have to do everything. You cannot just say, oh, I just want to be a smart contract dev, and you just develop a code without understanding the market, the needs, the developments, the audits that are ongoing for the smart contracts. The same goes for NFTs. You cannot just say, okay, I'll draw something, but I don't know what happens afterwards, how you launch that, where you launch it. And this is why Javier summed it up perfectly, actually. I tapped into various spaces, and there are some topics that are more, I wouldn't say expert because I don't like the word, to be honest, but that I'm more enthusiastic and more into it, and that I gained a lot of knowledge with, especially within the last 2 years. And there are areas that I say, okay, I tapped into it. It's not something maybe that I want to do, but I know how to move around, how to juggle it around, or talk about the topic or give some ideas or advice. So just to make sure on that. And yes, I'm currently like I'm working for Mazars as GRC technology advisor. Um, that doesn't have to do with blockchain at all. And on a side note, let's say my side hustle is I'm part of a core team for a metaverse project on the Binance Smart Chain. Um, yeah, as you know, there's a lot of metaverse virtual worlds. We're trying to focus on the entertainment aspect and making it as easy as possible for anyone to join. Currently, we're also developing an NFT marketplace, Joanna, but it's rather more focused on a general basis, not focused on specific topics. So it will kind of be an NFT marketplace with social media features where it's more interactive, because at the moment it's just very dry. And what you need to succeed in the NFT market is you need to show up, you need to be there, you need to talk one-to-one with each person. Doesn't matter what he says. Win him over, take him over, and you'll sell your NFT. And one point I want to touch about to open up the discussion, maybe, you mentioned our NFTs worth the price. To be honest, that's not up to us to decide. We don't decide the price. We can decide the mint price at the beginning, but afterwards it's a demand. Is the Mona Lisa worth 500 millions? For me, never. But people say it's worth because everyone says, hey, it is worth that, right? So we are currently in a very special place with NFTs where the supply and demand sometimes doesn't make sense at all. Really, it doesn't make sense. We have the flippers that buy and sell as soon as they have 2 or 3x. We have the believers that say, I like the community, I like how they talk to us, how they value me as a person. And that's the current space. And that's why, especially this crash, I love it. I'm honest with you. I really love the crash because it will wash out all these projects with, let's say, not such a good intent. And yeah, I'm glad to be here. I hope this helps as an introduction and to start the discussion. Joanna is smiling. I think she also has some thoughts on that. And then we can continue here.
Yeah, great. Thank you very much, Farooq. So yeah, let's be open. There are questions coming up already about copyrights and IPRs and everything. But maybe the first question, let's keep it a little bit more open for the moment. Maybe directly to Farooq because you start. Actually, I mentioned before a little bit that some people are thinking more about the bubble and all this NFT coming up. Some people think it's there to stay and that's the future, right? So what real use cases for NFTs exist at the moment, and what might be the future possibilities? What do you see? Where NFTs are going?
Well, we are currently in a green field where there's a lot of different possibilities that are being used. But my problem with that, I'll be very honest with that, is why do we think that NFTs or blockchain has to replace everything? The thought in general, especially new joiners, think they see a project, they say, oh, I could do that in this, I could do that in that. And I'm like, wait, think about the steps that do we really need that on the blockchain? What is the key essence of what you want to do. So the current use case that I see in NFTs that will be very successful is, but there's a lot of what ifs or ifs and buts, uh, is when the gaming industry taps into the NFT market. And I'm not talking about 10, 20 people creating a quick mobile game or a chess game, whatever. I'm talking about blue chip companies, AAA game design studios that take over that create the NFT in-game assets, and this way try to get the mass adoption, growing further. That's one of the key driving points that I see. Furthermore, also, I also like what you do at OneFootball, Joanna. It's really a great idea, especially with the rights. If you can get them, it's something that will most likely establish itself as a niche product within the industry. So it's a specific niche in the sports industry, which is pretty good. But I would everyone here that listens, I would simply say, think of when you look at the NFT project, what is the key of that? Is it just a profile picture? You need it for a game? You need it for a mint pass? What does it do? Or is it simply all gibbering and blabbering and then selling you something that will not be worth anything in the next hour? That's my take on that.
Maybe a question to both of you. Always there's a question: what is actually the difference between an NFT and the cryptocurrency? It's the same code, things like that. They are combined each other. What's the real difference between? So maybe you can enlighten us a little bit and give the difference, because there are a lot of people who still don't understand how they are combined actually. Why there's a cryptocurrency, why NFTs only can be bought normally through cryptocurrency, prices are going up and down, so it's a big mix. Maybe you can give us some clarity, or enlighten us a little bit, give us some clarity on this thing before we go deeper on copyrights and other legal issues.
Do you want to take that, Joanna, or shall I go for
it? I can take it very briefly, and then you can add in all of the everything that I forget. But I think, in brief, can be said that cryptocurrencies are fungible, and NFTs are non-fungible tokens. But what that means, what I was also trying maybe to elaborate on a little bit in the beginning, is that so the NFT represents a unique asset, so only one thing, and then cryptocurrencies as a fungible token, it's interchangeable to the same asset. So one Bitcoin equals another Bitcoin, but one NFT doesn't equal anything, so to say. Like it's a standalone, whereby cryptocurrencies come in a bunch, let's say, if that at all helps. And then of course also non-fungible tokens, they or NFTs, they can also represent a real physical asset, for example, which is now also what we're seeing. So somebody might want to represent their shares in a house or whatever as an NFT, for example, or an artwork, also a physical object, also as an NFT. So and again, that is not something that crypto does, because also cryptocurrency has the currency at the end, because it's kind of money. Or like you can also think about that again as like a bunch of things, whereby the fungible token is only it's a standalone asset. Did I miss anything?
No, you didn't. It's perfectly explained, and I just want to add one point maybe on that on top, is that we have now this, as you asked, cryptocurrency and NFTs, and we see all these various kind of projects with gaming, with metaverse, virtual world, this and that. The question everyone has to ask themselves: Do we really need cryptocurrencies in such a virtual environment, or could the NFTs be the main economy assets, so to say? So there's currently a small movement that I saw in various communities that try to use a hybrid function with tokens and NFTs for a, let's say, game economy or virtual world economy. But I will just put that out, maybe to challenge a bit and to see what everyone else thinks. Is that I think that NFTs could be the main driver of game economies, metaverse economies, or any kind of blockchain economy itself, so that we won't need over 5,000, 9,000 cryptocurrencies, crypto tokens, projects, and where we can really focus together with the legal aspects, with the establishment of legal rights. I think we can establish a really good economy just with NFTs. So this is, I think this is a big challenge, but we'll be able to make it.
Okay. So now comes actually the questions of the questions, right? Because that's what most of the people ask. So when somebody buys a oil painting or a book, or let's say any other creative work, one pays for the physical possession of it, right? Of that copy of the book, because normally it's a copy or a copy of the artwork, but not for the copyright of this painting. So the copyright of the book normally stays with the author, of the publisher, or the initiator, right? So are there any risks involved in NFTs, and actually who owns the copyright at the end? Maybe that's a question for Joanna first, but Farouk, please help out.
So who owns the copyright depends on the setup, I would say. If we assume that we have a very like basic situation, let's say, and I am an NFT artist, then I would create the artwork, and then that copyright to the artwork would belong to me. And then it depends on then how I distribute it. So, for example, we take the apes, for example, the Bored Ape Yacht Club as an example. So there they decided to give out the copyrights to the buyer of the NFT, which means then me as a creator would have given up my rights, and then to the artwork in itself, and the owner of the ape can then be actually the copyright holder of it. But then we can also have, like, as I said, in the case of OneFootball, when we're creating sports NFTs, but the same goes for NBA Top Shot, for example, or anybody else. There you have a football club owns, for example, the rights to the media content. So if you do video moments like NBA Top Shot does, for example, the league would still hold the rights to that content, and so the buyer of the NFT will never be the copyright holder, because that will always stay with the league. But it so to be very legal here, it depends.
Farouk, you want to add something?
Well,
I'm it's not an easy question.
No, it's not an easy question. As a how can I say this in a nice way? As a big enthusiast of decentralization, and I'm not so close to legal aspects in the Web3 sense. In my other job, of course, I have to, and I am. But in the Web3 sense, and all hail Satoshi Nakamoto, I'm not a big fan of that. But when we look at the NFTs, as Joanna said, she's absolutely right. It depends. it depends where the rights are, how it's defined. If there's licensing involved, if there's no licensing involved, if I do a sticky note, sell it as an NFT, have fun, take it. I don't care. But if I'm an artist that has music and I have a studio behind me, and then there's rights involved that you cannot transfer the whole copyright ownership, so to say. But we have maybe to raise something. We can see that a lot of, I, at least in the last few months, I saw a lot of companies being established in the area of digitalizing the whole real estate market, tokenizing real estate. Even I had once an idea with NFTs and real estate to split one real estate into 50 NFTs and have 50 holders. But then the problem was the legal aspects. I looked into it and I said, okay, it doesn't work at the moment. At the moment, it doesn't work. But I think in the not near, but maybe in 5 to 8 years, we'll have established legal basis for these property rights in general, and then you will be able to transfer ownership with NFTs too. So it's not far fetched that we'll have this at some point, most likely in 8 to 10 years, maybe.
If we think in terms of investment, right? I mean, what the big bang, let's say, with the cryptocurrencies, they actually went up from $1 actually to thousands of dollars. So NFTs is the new thing to invest. That's what you can read everywhere or what you can say everywhere. But this is the problem, right? Because if you hear everywhere in the news, so if you buy NFT, it's a unique token which will belong to you. So now, actually, after discussing with Joanna and Faruk, it's not very clear if the copyright will belong to you. So I think if somebody wants to invest, he will feel very uncomfortable or not protected at the moment. So do you have any tips how they can protect themselves, how they can see if they will hold the copyright or the IPR rights, or is it because of the missing regulation not addressing? So it's a little bit of luck at the moment. How do you see it?
Well, I just want to say that you don't always need the rights of the NFTs. If, as I said, if it's a PFP and they say, hey, you own the PFP, you can put it into a metaverse game wherever, that's yours. You bought it and it's yours, like selling an ice cream to someone. It's done. You own the ice cream, you can do whatever you want with that. And the bigger issue is that it's not easy to research and understand NFT projects because, as Mr. Hoffman stated, and he's absolutely right, 80% of NFT, I would even say maybe 90% of NFT projects on OpenSea are scams, are not following through their roadmap, not doing the right thing. So, what is the essence of that? New joiners, people that even friends of mine that never did something and they told me, hey, I bought an NFT, and I was like shocked. I said, yeah, but you never listened to me when I told you a few years ago a bit, do this, do that, try it out, see for yourself. And he said, yeah, I like the picture. And then, I told him, yeah, but what's that? I looked into it. I saw, okay, you don't know the team, you don't know the artist, you don't know anything. You look at the roadmap and they're promising you like they will bring you the moon and all the planets to the earth and give it to your hand, and you're like, that's not possible. And no developer could do that in this amount of time. You would need like 100 or 200 people behind that, right? So these are very important aspects in evaluating NFT projects, and I'm very sad to see that there's a lot of scams. But I have to say, this crash, that's why I say I love this crash, gives time to build knowledge, wealth, passive income, relationships. The two in between are rather monetary incentives, but the other relationships and knowledge, this is the key. This is the key to survive in the industry, the key to connect and collaborate, help each other. I don't see this space. I like competitiveness. It's important, but in this space, you have the option to simply by helping someone, just maybe something, you had a project that didn't work out because of this, you help someone, that will add value. And I'm always a big fan of improving the process of getting new joiners that have no idea about NFTs, right? So this is what I value most. I think this is the best way to go on with NFT projects. Build up knowledge and collaborate and connect.
You want to add something, Joanna? Offer
to
the point.
If I still remember, there were so many good points there. I believe the original question was, how do we know who the copyright belongs to, or what exactly was? Yeah, exactly. No, but I mean, I would second what Farouk also said with that to utilize your NFT. It's not. I mean, yeah, you don't have to get that copyright either. It's just very important to just understand what you're actually acquiring, and what you can do with that. Also, so that you understand, for example, that, well, if your desire is to put your NFT or to use your NFT as your label on your new coffee brand, then you need to make sure you acquire the rights, or an NFT with such rights, and so on. Yeah.
So means no NFT project is entirely without risks. Let's say it this way, right? So, but many projects have fallen apart due to this rug pull scams, right? That's where we're going now, actually, at the moment. So, and if I'm right, not all of these rug pull scams are illegally. So it depends actually how you set it up. So how can somebody protect themselves? Especially if you're not the expert, right? But everybody wants to take part. So do you have any tips?
How to protect yourself from not getting scammed of an NFT project?
Scammed, or actually even see, because I think this whole rug pull scam sometimes are done in a very smart way that, legally speaking, they are not even illegal, actually, because you get money, they're doing it afterwards. They say didn't work out, but actually you lost everything. So it's not really illegal. But if you invest a lot of money over there, because you cannot be an expert in everything, right? But you still would like to invest into the future and into future tech. So any tips from both of you, what you can do to protect yourself somehow? Any ideas? How would you protect yourself, actually?
I just want to say something. There's I will not name the project, but there's a project on OpenSea that has no roadmap, no Discord, nothing, and they have a floor price of 2.9 ETH. It's just an NFT project put out there, said we don't have a roadmap, we don't do this, we don't do that. What do you want to do if they rug you now? What if they sell out all their NFTs that they have in the treasury and say, hey, we're out? They didn't lie, did they? They said, we don't have a roadmap, we don't have this, we don't do that. They openly said it and stated it. So how would you want to protect yourself? The only way I see protecting yourself in general is try to understand, do they really have a utility? Does the timeline make sense? If they say we have a game and in 2 months it's live, forget that. No chance. You cannot, like, if it's a really good game, high graphics, whatever, no chance for that. I don't care if it's top game studios. You need at least a year for a small good game on a small scale. And even in other aspects, the artist, maybe you can analyze the artist. If you know who the artist is, check his previous works, look at his or her, look at his or her collectibles, previous art. How does this person act in Twitter Spaces or in other communities? How does this person talk? The whole NFT market currently is more. Everyone is becoming a psychologist. It's very hard because you have to be able to at least guess or understand how this person thinks or acts, or if it's genuine or honest. And I would just say, if it's a use case you like, if you like the image and it's not like 90 ETH for an NFT, you could try. If you can afford to lose that money, have fun, but don't invest something that you're not able to afford to lose. Don't take loans for that. Don't sell cars, because I've seen everything, I've heard everything, and that's simply not the way to do. And just have fun. Try it out. We're still early, very early.
And I could maybe add to that, like especially someone who's starting in the space and want to get into investment and such, try to get into groups if you can find them, different NFT groups on Discord and such, because of course everybody has like very limited amount of time, but there is a huge amount of knowledge between people out there in communities just discussing. So if you just want to get a feel for what people are buying, also of course be sensible towards hype and don't buy into that necessarily, but also really like try to find communities where you start feeling that you trust the people and so on, and engage in these discussions and try to get tips, because many times a lot of sensible people are also out there knowing what they're doing, so you can learn from them.
So actually, in our chat function, it's going crazy. They're already discussing a lot of topics within themselves. So one topic I just see, it's I think we call it wash trading, right? So you have the stock, you have collected goods, you have this market manipulation can happen during the auctions, right? Some people are driving the price of NFT up and inflating the bid price, right? And then after the sale, the asset totally deflates in value, leaving the buyer with, let's say, valueless NFTs. And sometimes they even issue new NFTs, which actually it's the same. The price goes down. So, what do you think about these things? What do you see in the market? Something you can do about it, or no roadmap, nothing to do, Farouk? You're already laughing.
Well, I just want to say something. Maybe it will be shocking for some, but the whole crypto market is being manipulated by big players and whales. You can track their wallets. You can go on ETHScan and check what they do and their timings. When there's a big dump happening, it's not just because of the Luna crash or Celsius being liquidated or having over leveraged positions. It's because the whales who have the money, have the amount, they can manipulate the market. How can you explain that a company shorts at the exact right moment, a big company, the whole market, and then at the same time, specific wallets of big whales that are, some of them are known, do a coordinated drop, and we see some billions liquidated, and some others winning millions. So this is not, I think, a question that we can answer at all. The market is currently like that, and most likely, as long as we don't have a, let's say, semi-friendly regulation, we will not see a big change in that.
Something to add, or you only agree?
No, I only agree. I can't much add much else to it, apart from saying that I do think that now, after this crash, another positive, like coming from the legal point of view, I do think that it can be quite positive that we get some more regulation, that at least regulators are now reacting. I, of course, hope that they don't react too strongly, because the risk is, of course, also that people that didn't like crypto from the beginning now see a good way to to just shut it all down, to be like very harsh. It's not exactly like that, probably, hopefully, but in any case, to kind of go after it and regulate it in a way that's unbeneficial for the growth and prosperity of it. So I hope that doesn't happen. But just in general, still, I think such situations that we're in still might foster very better regulation as well, that then can prevent this, because ultimately now crypto has been so volatile for so many years that I personally think that in order for it to get more adoption, to become sort of a more, let's say, acceptable part of the technological future in the society, it needs to become a little more stable, because that's also the problem that the regulators especially are arguing, that the reason we need to regulate it, or that harsh regulation is needed, is because of the volatility currently, which is then too risky for people, and people need to be protected from such volatility. So yeah.
I just want to add something, especially regarding the last point you said. I don't think that people should be protected in that sense, because what we need is education in sense of, if you really want to get someone into it, then don't just say, hey, this is good, they do this, have fun. Don't we're always using these buzzwords. When I'm talking to some other people, they say, yeah, what's this, what's that? I'm like, you're right. You cannot explain it in a great way, or at least try to make it as easy as possible. If you want to get more people, our decentralized applications, our marketplaces, our whatever we build has to be as easy as possible. Even I'd go as far as to say it has to be a one-click solution where the user doesn't have to understand every word, where they just understand, okay, if I do this, this and this happens, because that's the easiest way to get people interested. And when they see how the developments are going, they will educate themselves. They will get some, learnings, books, whatever they want. I mean, everything is on YouTube now. Anything you want to learn about coding, you can learn there. Anything you want to learn about specific layer 1, layer 2 solution, you can learn there. Like, the information overflow that we have causes people to be lazy. Instead of saying, okay, let me first learn what are Solana, what's Ethereum, what's AVAX, what's this, what's that. They rather just go, okay, this guy says this, I'll go with him. It's like a cult being created within a world of possibilities. But that's how, when we look at history, everything starts in humankind, always a cult, and then it develops, right? So we're at kind of the same spot now, typical history of humankind, and we'll get there. I'm positive.
Yeah, for sure. And wasn't my intention to actually say that, like, it's not my personal view that people needs to be protected from it. It's rather just a general regulation. So I would definitely also agree to the fact that that education is needed. Yeah.
So I think the direction is going into fraud and money laundering a little bit, and identification, if we should do that. No, it's interesting topic, right? That's what the people want to know, where the risks are, right? But before we come to this specific topic, if you think you were frauded or you lost something and you want to go to a court, right? So taking into account now that every country more or less it's a little bit different, right? Depending where you are and where you bought it. But is there some roadmap we can say at the moment how to address this point, or is it actually where should you go? It's nothing normal, right? So normally you say if you get robbed, you first go to the police and you know what to do. But how to do it? This is in the online world. So how to handle it? So what are the steps there? Maybe Joanna, as a legal counsel, you have an idea of what you can do there.
So if we're talking about if we're talking about now, if I got scammed, like so I would differentiate maybe in this case between two different scenarios, and that would be if I would know that somebody has scammed only me personally, then it might be easier for me to, like, I have heard, for example, of situations where somebody got scammed and then through the transaction history, so on the blockchain, can try to follow the follow that line, and then might potentially find the scammer, or then find a source that you can that you can push for to try to get your money. Say that it's, I don't know, yeah, some somebody said that, hey, if you transfer X amount of ETH to this address, you will get X amount of other tokens back, against it, and like this would be probably a pretty common scam. And then you transfer your ETH, and then it's all lost because this person doesn't exist. And so I've heard of cases where then somebody has tried to actually go after it with enough power behind it to then or like enough people go after, like, who have been scammed. So basically you would try to find other people that were also subject to that scam, and then you jointly try to find the scammer. And in some cases, apparently this has worked from what I've been told and from whatnot. But to your very point, do I go after somebody like that in court? It's 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 extremely difficult, and I would say I have not, to be honest, as of yet, heard of someone. Of course, you have these huge leaks, or like Axie Infinity, like with breaks, and like these type where people actually just lose the money because a company or because a company couldn't or had problems. And then it's of course also easier to then put that company in, or force that company to take action, or pay back, or try to maybe repair or something like that, the damages caused to the people that lost their money. So that might be a bit easier, but ultimately just going to court and saying, hey, I got scammed. I don't really think you might not be very successful, to be honest, to get back your money. And again, to your point, this is sorry, to Farouk's point earlier of don't invest money that you can't lose.
So, like some participants already wrote, we're in the wild west still, right?
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
But seeing this problem, right? And there are a lot of comments in the chat. So, it should be the NFT connected to a real identity, right? That's the big question. So, what do you think about NFTs and the identity? So in the future, because now it's not this way, but in the future, do you think in the future people have to go through a KYC process, so know your client process, when buying a NFT? And what do you think about, should it be done this way? Because you lose the anonymity, but it will be safer for the people.
I will just say it will 100%, and I promise you that it will be like that. That you have to KYC for your, either for your wallet or for buying assets on specific marketplaces. Then you will have these marketplaces that are in, let's say, the dark space, that will allow you to do it without KYC. As you can see with the centralized exchanges, some require KYC, let's say the bigger ones, and there are smaller ones that don't require KYC. But if I'm not mistaken, maybe Joanna can help me out. The European Union already had a discussion about the KYC, especially for wallets. And they didn't decide 100% yet, but I think it's in the process of being established, maybe next year or in 2 years. And it will be definitely like that. I mean, you will have to KYC for any kind of assets you hold. That's the future, in my opinion. I don't like it, to be honest, but that's the future, I think.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a very interesting discussion because so what they now wanted to implement was basically a KYC process on both ends. So both the receiver and the sender had to be KYC'd, and also for very small sums. And then the argument was that this becomes too much of a hurdle. First of all, it becomes expensive because also small players might have a hard time KYCing everybody. Becomes a hurdle. Also, the point is that you want to be able to transfer or keep your identity and so on. But so ultimately, right now, we will see how this all develops. Germany, for example, have been pushing back on this very hard. So that was a quite a big surprise recently. Also, that Germany took such a harsh stance against having this implemented. So transfer this type of processes. So just in general, I think that will be very interesting to see how this all develops. Yeah.
So looking a little bit more into the European market, because if we start to look at the German market or the French or the Swiss one, Liechtenstein, I think there should be some EU legislation, and the European legislator actually is currently preparing this regulation, right? The markets is in crypto assets regulation, MiCA, it's called, right? So MiCA is expected to enter into force 2024. At least these are my latest news. So is there anything we should know about MiCA, or is there anything you expect from MiCA coming up? Do you have some insights about MiCA?
That's a very good question. If I have any, I don't have any more insights, I would say, than anybody else has. I mean, it's now in the trilogy discussions, so we will see. I mean, even if it's now estimated to enter into force 2024, we will see, of course. I personally think that the ban of that it's going in the right direction. Now, when they didn't put the ban on proof of work, for example. So we'll see.
Faruk, anything you want to add?
I don't think I can add much on that because that's not an area of expertise of mine. I just heard of it. I read it a bit, what they're doing. I know they don't like proof of work because of climate change policies that the European Union wants to implement, I think by 2025. That's the latest I know of. But as I said, even if I'm not a fan, even if a lot of people are not a fan, we need hopefully just a little bit of open regulation to foster, innovation, to enhance adoption, to give this a real chance. I hope they don't make the mistake of shutting down, but I don't see that. I don't think that they will do that. I think maybe they will start a bit harsh and then go lower, or start with a less harsh regulation, and they go step by step to evaluate the market.
Okay. So time is running actually faster than we thought because of the great discussion. But before we come to an end, I still would like actually to discuss one other topic, completely different to the one we have, and it's a current topic with the war. It's all about energy at the moment. There's criticism that comes up, always relating to the energy that's needed to operate this blockchain networks, and most of the NFTs are done with Ethereum. So this blockchain consumes more electricity than many countries. That's what is said, right? So many will argue that NFTs contribute to the blockchain's overall carbon footprint because they promote the use of this technology. So how do you see it? What's coming up? What should we do? Big topic again. But we're in the Wild Wild West.
Yeah, the thing with the electricity is some are too extreme. Some analysis is like doesn't make sense. And then there's a counterpart saying, yeah, but it's a lot of renewable energy. So the whole concept of proof of work, proof of stake is not a big issue because Ethereum will either way go to proof of stake. Yeah, they have some issue in changing their structure. They will struggle a bit. They will have to adapt a lot of things, but that's fine. Maybe this, I don't think they will make it this year. I hope they do, but maybe early next year, Ethereum will be out of the proof of work status. So we'll have, I think, one of the only top currency will be Bitcoin that will be on proof of work. And it's not worth it to mine Bitcoin if you don't have like 1,000 or 10,000 of graphic cards and mining rigs, whatever. So I don't see it as a big issue. I rather see, if we talk about energy and electricity, all countries in Europe want to reduce the what's it called in English? Atomkraftwerk.
Nuclear power.
Exactly, nuclear power plants, right? So instead of focusing on one small issue that they see, which will either way be changed for the majority of cryptocurrencies, I'd rather focus on how do we create renewable energy sources within Europe without having to import it from all over the world, which causes, in my opinion, more costs and pollution or whatever than our beloved Ethereum or Bitcoin.
Yeah, exactly. And I will just second that and also say that ultimately, just in order for this whole space to evolve, we anyway need to find I mean solutions that allow for faster transaction, and all of those will happen on layer twos or such. And there are already so much of development on layer twos or any other like faster networks to help improve that, which then also takes, or it just in general, like blockchains, even the Flow blockchain, for example, specifically for NFTs and such. Not to speak about if you're talking about gaming, and gaming on Ethereum is also not feasible at the moment because it's not fast enough. So you want to find a blockchain that simply allows for faster transactions, so all of this can run. And all of, like, there already exists a lot that where the gas fees and all of that, they're very very low. So again, the energy consumption is not that high just in general to run everything on them. So you might also want to argue that on this whole electricity consumption discussion, crypto might have just been like an easy target because it's new and such, instead of actually going after the real problem. So we might want to think about that.
So Jörg's already joining us, who will ask the last question, but stay in this topic. And unfortunately, then the time is over. I only will give after Jörg some last remarks. Everybody, especially the new generations, are much more conservative with energy and especially the SDG goals, right? So you both are very secure that NFTs and crypto is the new technology, right? But if you look a little bit how the new generation acts and what they're asking, and to be greener and more with renewables. I mean, renewables are actually built up in the last 20, 30 years with solar energy and wind energy, and we still didn't reach the goals, right? And now you can see even the problems with what is happening in the world, and countries, instead of needing less electricity, it's always going up because there's always more appliances. So so the big question is, will actually cryptocurrency and NFTs actually survive, or actually is it going in the opposite direction? Everything which needs more energy at the end, the new generation coming up are not willing to use it anymore. It's a little bit of a dilemma, right? So, but as the last question,
there's an easy solution. You create a private or semi-private blockchain, call it green chain, and say we're climate free, we don't have any energy consumption, and then you sell whatever you want on that. Now, yeah, I mean, it was more of a joke, I'd say, or a semi-joke, because I don't see the new generation as an issue or anything. I rather see them as driver of the value of the whole Web3 industry, because they, especially in my, like in general, not just mine, they have the vision or the intrinsic value to change something, right? And with low entry barriers that are offered within the blockchain, within Web3, within what we do in NFTs, they have the opportunity to do something out of where they are, with easy access, with, I would say, very simple possibilities to create their own companies and projects. It could be, to support climate change, to support the pollution, to clean up the lakes, the seas, whatever. There's a lot of projects also regarding that. The problem still is when you have these charity projects, as we call them, is that the founders or so, the intent is not there. But if our new generation with the climate change and green, everything should be green, even with the food tech companies, if they really want to be part of it, they have the biggest chance to establish something great, because they have the vision and they take it as their own mission, right? So I see it as a great aspect to get them on board, and that's just a small portion. It's not all.
so unfortunately, it's time is running. So, but we're actually in the perfect topic now to hand over to Jörg. Climate action. We are talking climate action partnership. Jörg would also like to address a few words to both of you. So, Jörg.
Thank you very much, and I'm happy to take it from here. Thank you very much, dear presenters and panelists, for your time today in this webinar, for sharing your insights, your experiences with us, for engaging into such a lively discussion. That's really great, and always a fantastic, let's say, thing to see that webinar for webinar, this is always happening. And by the way, at EUTech, we have more than 200 webinars each year. And I'm very proud to say that for each of those webinars, for all presenters and panelists, we have the pleasure to hand over a tree certificate. And that's a little gesture of our appreciation, what I just said. It's always a special pleasure for me. And why is that? That is because I'm at EUTech the chair of the Climate Action Commission on the one hand, and in my real world job, I am managing director of GoBlue Now, and we are a climate consulting company supporting other companies on their transformation towards a 1.5 degree compatible future. And obviously in both roles, trees have an important part to play. They actually are very beneficial and important for the climate, for our climate. In this sense, thank you very much again. And I do now hand over or show you the tree certificates. This is the tree certificate for Faruk Türk. Here is the tree certificate for Joanna Rindel. And last but not least, the tree certificate for Dr. Jane Thomason. And thank you very much again. As I said already, but that cannot be repeated often enough. And whoever is interested in learning more about our tree planting program in Africa, or is interested in understanding deeper what kind of climate consulting services GoBlue Now is offering in order to offer real practical support for companies, please reach out to me. I'm more than happy to engage into any kind of discussion, address all your questions. And having said that, I hand back to you, Javier, for your famous last words.
Thank you very much, Jörg. So with the topic today, we should think about how actually the planting tea project in Africa, we should change it to NFTs. Since we are the European Technology Chamber, right? So something to think about, something to go. But at last words, of course, I want to thank Joanna and Farouk again, as I'm also very happy that the chamber actually will plant a tree in your name. You will get it actually sent to your email, if I'm not wrong, Jörg, right? So
yes,
you have it there.
just send it.
Jane unfortunately couldn't join today. I'm sorry I didn't inform you today, but it's fine. There was some issue. For all the others, to summarize a little bit today's talk, we're living in a wide westward world. Everybody knows everything and nothing at the same time. So we hope a little bit to get regulation, but not too much regulation. And even though we are spending too much energy on NFTs, we still think it's the right way to go. It's very hard to summarize everything, but I think that's more or less what we have discussed today. As last word, I would like actually to thank also the participants to join. A few of them already had to leave, unfortunately. Since the topic's so interesting, we will actually have a follow-up, not webinar, but a networking meeting where we will be on one-to-one basis, so where we can discuss topics again, maybe a little bit deeper, also create some network opportunities between the parties here. You could see already in the chat there was a lot of discussions, so I think we should stay on this topic. So I want to thank everybody again for today, especially to Joanna and Farouk, also to the participants, and hope to see you soon again. So thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.